We did our service learning with the Northern Nevada International Center. NNIC is a nonprofit organization that helps refugees resettle into their new homes. A refugee is a person that is forced to leave their home country to escape prosecution, war, or violence. Resettlement is a careful selection by governments like the United States for the purpose of lawful admission of vulnerable refugees who cannot return to their home country or live safely in neighboring countries. NNIC is a nonprofit organization where 90% of their funding comes from grants and the rest of their funding comes from language bank services and exchange programs. Refugee assistance projects of a smaller scale are extremely important and needed throughout the year. Currently in Reno, there are about 14 refugee families and there are about 77 individuals that are single-headed households. These families come from Syria, Afghanistan, El Salvador, and Democratic Republic of Congo. Once these refugee families are in the United States, they sometimes find family members that live here. It's not recommended that refugees travel to other countries or even back to their home country because it's not easy to get back within the United States.
Less than 1% of the world's refugees are ever resettled. The current administration in the White House has affected the programs at the Northern Nevada International Center. The refugee resettlement program has been stalled by a travel ban for 11 countries, including Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Libya, Mali, North Korea, Somalia, South Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. The Refugee Council USA shows that the number of refugees allowed in the United States for the fiscal year is 45,000. In order to reach this cap, the administration must resettle 3,750 refugees a month, but as of October 2017, only 1,241 refugees had been resettled. The Refugee Council USA says that the administration must be held accountable.
When refugees move to developed countries, they are often confronted with several challenges of resettlement. These barriers include poor English proficiency, unemployment, isolation, and unfamiliarity with a technology-based lifestyle, new foods, and a foreign environment. Hence, while relocating in a new country, refugees generally experience the dual stress of coping with pre-migration trauma from being victims of war and adjusting with the socio-cultural differences of their host country. As soon as the refugees arrive to their new host country, they start to feel and experience a roller coaster of emotions.
Some of the challenges refugees face once they arrive to a developed country is how to cope with forced migration or persecution. Both of these may increase the risk of poor health outcomes. Forced migration often breaks apart families and communities, which weakens the social ties that typically aid recovery from traumatic life events. In addition, persecution leads to ill treatment of refugees because of race, political, or religious beliefs. Exposure to forced migration and persecution led to refugees experiencing profound psychological distress. When it comes to health care coverage within the United States, refugees are typically enrolled in Medicaid. Many refugees come with severe medical issues, including bad dental hygiene, which is not covered by Medicaid. Also, due to exposure of traumatic events, many refugees suffer from mental health issues. refugees that come to Nevada are at a disadvantage because our state has a poor mental health system. It is hard to say if refugees that lived in another country receive better health care once they are here. This is because healthcare systems differ within countries. For example, if a refugee lived in Uganda, there is not much access to healthcare, but if they lived in an urban area of Jordan, they would have better access. Unfortunately, the NNIC does not look for jobs for refugees with health benefits because it would be too expensive.
Through our service learning project with the Northern Nevada International Center, it was evident that many of the families did not have the proper clothing for the winter season. Our group created a flyer and set up stations at 3 local Walmart locations for shoppers to donate new or gently used clothing items. We collected beanies, gloves, and socks and gave these donated items to the refugee families in time for the cold weather. Thank you for listening to our story, and we hope you learned more about the refugees here in Reno.